adds simulated buys to it. But how much does it know to add buy over buy at time after time? Well, I run a bunch of other numbers where I take the fee numbers that PulseX is going to collect, and then I run it. So we'll look at the what if game here and scroll up. So basically I have numbers where I have a token count, I have the price of the token, the value simulated so I can run the liquidity pool. But then I also have more detailed information about fee rates collected, comparable. So in this model, I use Uniswap because it's basically a clone of PancakeSwap and Uniswap. So I use Uniswap's volume because Hex made it popular anyway. Our community should do amazing things, and we should follow Uniswap pretty closely. So I take their volume, their amount of business done per day, and I assume we're going to do 10% of it because we have about 10% of the users when we look at the amount of people that sacked. So when I get back to the crystal ball here, this is where bullish in terms, like if we assumed we had 100%, the same amount of users as Uniswap to start with, I would use 100%. But I think we're going to start with 1/10 of the users and ramp up to 100% over a year. And since I think it's going to be like a 10x ramp up, that's where the scale number comes in from starting to finish. And base users, I have to correct that because that one is for Uniswap. So Uniswap numbers. Now that I can put in Uniswap numbers, I love this so much because, all right, let's open this up a little bit. So I break this down into 1 year, 5 year, and there's even 10 and 20 year models here. But we're assuming I've got this thing set up all nice and polite to begin with. So growth year over year. If we started with 1/10 of Uniswap's users, well, we have 10.5% the next year because we went up 5%. And then we'd have 11.1% the year after, compounding 5% growth. That seems really slow, so we'll even just set it to 10% growth year over year. So starting with 10% of the users of Uniswap, 10% growth year over year. And then, the liquidity pool. I had an estimated size, but people kept changing it on me. The last time I checked, it was 73 times bigger than what I assume the main net pool size will be. Because I'm assuming a liquidity pool more the size of Hexes, but I could be wrong. So in this, okay, well, what if you took $100 and got it in on the day one sack, and then it launches? This is just for fun. I thought a 20x. I could adjust that to just a 10x from the sack rate because over the month it went up, so it was 10 times more, and I didn't think it would start at less than a value of the ending sack price. So I put it up to 20x because I was feeling generous. But in this model, I even included the sell-off because, how many people sacked for PulseX because they didn't get into Pulse and then still haven't seen my moon math video where I look at the buy and bird, let's say 15%. So we get a sell-off number equal to 15% of the total supply of PulseX at 2.5 trillion in that first month. And then just for fun, I was throwing in sell-off amounts. So we should delete these out of here because that's how I demonstrate like 3 trillion tokens, 2 trillion tokens, 1 trillion. Like that's 6 trillion of sell-off in the first, 8.5 trillion out of 17 trillion, almost half the supply sold off in the first 5 years into these pools in this simulation right here. With only a 10% year-over-year growth, it'll probably do way better. And let's see. Still, it looks like the 5-year forecast with that kind of sell pressure and no one in the market buying, you'd still see a 5x on your sack value over the 5 years, which is better than anything in Wall Street. And that's with some mad dumpage. Like, let's make it a little more reasonable and just make it 1 trillion in the per year. So we're down to like 5 trillion. I think that's just slightly too big for a number. No, slightly too small. Right. And let's change this. So let's calm this down a little bit. And so sell-off pressure is now closer to 5.5 trillion. Well, we're up to 6x's. It still doesn't seem that impressive. But this is where, how fast do you guys think this will take off? Like, let's look at some of the numbers. At 10% growth year over year, we start with 150,000 users the first year. By the third year, we're only up to 200,000 users. I mean, 5 years in, we only have 300,000 users. I mean, I think Richard has that many followers right now. So I don't think that 10 years in, wow, 15, we haven't broken 1 million users. There's no way that happens. So let's ramp this up a little bit. About 25% growth year over year. Have a look at the user counts. Well, we break 1 million users by the 6th year. By that, we're into 2 million by 10 years. And 20 years, we have 13 million users. That almost sounds reasonable. Doesn't it, guys? But now when you look at so with the sell-off, oh my God, I think the market will come in and buy, because this does not simulate any buy pressure from the market, just sell-off. But still, after 5 years, even with 5.5 trillion out of the 17 trillion dumped into it, that's a 42x. And that's not if you bought at the dip of the first year, the way this thing's dumping. Like, the automated buy pressure just will constantly eat these tokens up. And if you look at the what if game, the way I simulate the user growth, let's get back over and I can demonstrate this a little more, because the orange lines here show the amount of tokens bought and burnt in that month and the amount of buy pressure for the entire month. And that is $2 million of buy pressure in month 7 alone. So when I start looking at the years and we jump up to year 3 in this current simulation, I'm looking at 82.5 million almost dollars of buy pressure in that month here, or sorry, in that year, in that whole entire year. That's a lot of automated buy pressure based on volume of other tokens swapped on the network. So even if you had no market buy pressure, which there will be, you have that much compensating effect to any of the insane sell-offs that people want to do. And I really think with an amazing RH product and the way, if we go look at the adoption rates that we're getting, that anything less than 150% year over year would probably be nominal. And I mean, the X's start getting insane, that the 5-year forecast says 723 X's now. And I never even go over to the 10 and 20 because I don't want people to have heart attacks. But yeah, number of X's since launch, 81,000 X's after 10 years if we got to that 50% adoption year over year. But if we actually look at the user counts, like by 10 years, 8 million users. That's what that adoption rate looks like. And by 20, wow, that's 500 million people in 20 years using this chain if it were that successful, swapping on our DEX. And 311,000 X's, like the return on that, $100, this is just insane moon math. There's no way this could be real. But my simulation, like, I put a lot of effort into this. Like, you can see the different graphs showing the sell-offs and then the rebounds from the actual buy pressure that the big buyer Barry that K4K coined is able to do. Like, oh my God. I try to simulate, and down here, this is an S curve of the actual user count. So, I mean, I haven't figured out how to set this in log in Excel yet. But the idea is in the first year, I simulate a small S curve. And then as we go through the next 10 years, I simulate another S curve. And then the last 10 years gets the final wave of growth in this simulation. And yeah, I don't know. Like, the longer out I go, like, I don't know, because like the buy and burn is not going to stop. If people don't stop trading, that's going to go up. And there might not be that much sell-off pressure, because remember, you don't have to sell your coins for a profit. You only have to go and take them to a stablecoin protocol, and you can mint your own loan that in some areas may be tax-free. I don't know. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a tax consultant. But wow, you've got a bunch of reasons between the DAO, being able to promise not to sell it for day by day to earn yield of free airdrop tokens. You've got the stablecoin protocol, and you've got all this automated buy pressure available for this product, where these are buy and burns where you don't have to worry about the iMob at Apple selling shares on your head after you just bought in. So yeah. Any questions on this before I stop sharing my screen?
That's amazing, man.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's wild. The amount of work you must have put into that. Like, I can't even imagine how many hours you've had to refine and tweak that to get it to work properly.
Yeah, well, Mass Savant, it took me one night and a bunch of Red Bulls to crack out version 1. And then I put in a few hours a week doing revisions, and I probably made like 5 revisions per version, and this is probably version 3, because after I added the S-curve, that was a major overhaul when I was finally able to simulate user count over the years and then simulate the amount of volume that would generate. So yeah, it's I don't know. Like, I mean, I look at it and I'm like, it's just a toy. It's just an emulator. I build these things all the time. Can't you make one of these? Like, I don't see the big deal about it. But, you know, then I probably realize I sound like an asshole because not everyone can do this. So I see the numbers, and I heard Richard, like, it started as the what if game because Richard was constantly going, oh, what if everybody sells because they want the pulse? What if an asteroid takes out the internet? I hate the what if game. I'm not playing the what if game. And I'm sitting there wired watching his show going, yeah, PulseX coming. You know what? I'll play the what if game for you. I'll do it, Richard. Let me take them on. Here's all your stupid ideas. I'll run it through an emulator. Nope, price still goes up. Yeah, we'll try that. No, price still goes up. Yeah, we'll try that. Price still goes up. And then this made no sense because it was so many raw numbers that I'm like, okay, here's the user interface, the crystal ball. So like that was version 2, switching over to have a user interface. And then, yeah, this S-curve was really version 3. And then I've had many updates in between, but I probably put no more than 40 hours into this thing. I mean, working at the computer. I probably think about it way too often.
That's impressive.
So if the market,
that's awesome.
If the market like is going to dump PulseX at the start, there's going to be a huge burn then. So like me personally, from a like strategic point of view, I'll just watch, and then whatever asset goes down is the one that I'll buy.
Yeah, like here, burn count. I forgot that was kind of grayed out. Yeah, burnt since the first year with that kind of sell off, 3 trillion. Oh my. Like, I have a burn count down here. First year, 1.9 trillion able to be burned with that kind of sell-off into the market. But there's some people that get really bullish and they think, well, we'll start at half the numbers of Uniswap. But I mean, if I do that into this model, oh my God, we're looking at 7Xs in the first year, and we're looking at, after 5 years, I'm sorry, is that 17,000x? That's 17,000x in the first 5 years. That's some hex numbers. And I don't think these are even fathomable for people. Like, $100 could be worth 777 billion.